receive or how much money they're going to have to set aside to determine this. And remember, just the food processors alone, we are affected by seasonality. We can't just gauge markets every year. We have Mother Nature to contend with. We have no idea what our yields are going to be, and so therefore what our emissions are going to be. We can cut back our processes if we have an extra yield, just not process it. And that's food that's gone to waste, because the food that is processed is grown specifically for processing manufacturers. It is not food that you're going to find sitting in a fresh market where it can be purchased. So these are very big concerns that we have, and we really would. It would give us a measure of confidence to know that the legislature is as interested in this area as we are, and is keeping a close eye on exactly what's happening out there.
Okay. Thank you very much. Other witnesses in favor? I'll ask that you be brief, please.
Mr. Chairman and members, Tony Francois for the Western States Petroleum Association. We support the bill. We would echo Dorothy Rothrock's comment about the APA. It may be that the chief thing that CARB needs is relief from their October 28th APA deadline. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
And Blair Knox with the California Independent Petroleum Association in support.
Thank you. Any other supporters? Opponents?
Hello, Victoria Rome with Natural Resources Defense Council. We don't have an official position yet. I'm sorry, I wasn't aware the bill was going to be heard today, but would just like to register some concerns about any delay in implementation of AB 32, including the cap and trade program. I'm not aware that our ARB is asking for this authority, and to my knowledge, they've been very receptive in working with entities to extend deadlines or make adjustments to the program as it moves forward. So I don't think the bill is necessary.
Thank you very much. Let me ask for the Air Resources Board representative to come forward. I think several questions have been raised by this bill and by Ms. Grove and her witnesses. I have two specific questions and then one sort of broader general question. The two specific questions are in relation to the provisions of this bill and the analysis. I was looking for your confirmation or comment on the analysis, what the analysis says, both about the report, when the Air Board intends to provide the report, and secondly, the question of existing authority to delay implementation for up to a year. And then the general question, you want to take those first, and then I'll ask you the general question? Give them to you a couple at a time.
Sure. Jennifer Gress, the Air Resources Board. We are planning to provide a status report on AB 32, including cap and trade, at our August 24th board meeting. And we do believe that AB 32 gives us the authority to delay implementation beyond January 1, 2012. And I have here with me Bob Fletcher, Deputy Executive Officer for ARB, who can provide more detail on those issues.
If you want more detail on those issues.
Well, I do have a broader question, which I think Ms. Grove's bill raises and the witnesses raise, which is the question of adequate lead time for businesses to be able to adapt to whatever's coming at them. And I think that's a correct interpretation of what the broader issue is, rather than the specifics that are in the bill. Could you talk about the Air Board's response to that concern by business?
Sure. We absolutely agree that we should take the time to get it right. And later this week, we're planning on releasing our first set of regulatory amendments that were directed by the board at the December hearing. As was mentioned by the rep from the California League of Food Processors, we've been working with stakeholders pretty diligently to work through things like the benchmarking and the other technical issues. We recognize, as identified by the Assemblyman, we have a fair amount of things to do. As Jennifer mentioned, we do believe we have the latitude to make that decision as to whether we are ready to go or not. We do have issued an alternatives analysis as directed by the courts that the board will consider in the morning of August 24th. And then the board can then decide if they choose to proceed with cap and trade or not. And I think there's a lot of issues that we will need to address, but we certainly can, if we make the decision that there's additional work that needs to be done, we can complete the rulemaking by the end of October and simply adjust the implementation dates. We think we have that latitude under AB 32 and are prepared to exercise that. But we do think that August is a key date because we recognize that people are doing planning. The markets are sensitive to that time frame, so I would expect that we would be making decisions in that time frame.
So I'm certain you can't specifically predict what the board's going to do, but besides the authority, to what degree do you feel that there's a sensitivity there to the question that's been raised in terms of examining what it will take for businesses to comply? And I know from personal experience that, for example, with some of the diesel rules, when businesses come forward and said, here's our problem and we need to do it this way, and then with more time, the board has at least been somewhat responsive. And I want assurance that, in fact, with regards to AB 32, that similar actual looking, not just at what the legislature wants out of AB 32, but what it takes for a business to comply.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the board, our recommendation as staff to the board will lay out for them all of the considerations, and we are having a lot of meetings with people that are representing the market, that are people representing the individual companies to try to assess where folks stand. So I think that in the August time frame, and as laid out in the resolution itself, we need to present to our board the status of that information and provide them with a good indication of where things stand. And I think the board has an excellent track record of responding to those concerns, and they do not want to launch a program that is not ready to go. So we'll have to make that determination in the next 2 months or so, and be prepared in the August meeting to make that decision.
Well, please do carry back the message, at least as far as the chairman's concerned, that I share concerns about regulatory certainty and the needs of business to figure out what it takes to comply. I want to point out that Senator Pavley, who's in the room here, is holding a informational hearing. It's on the market mechanisms, but it points up that there are efforts underway for the legislature to provide oversight. And I think I was invited. I intend to come, and also this committee will be holding an oversight hearing on AB 32. I'm not sure exactly when, but that's part of the point of the bill. I think also is, and we heard at least one of the witnesses, several witnesses, say the legislature needs to be engaged, be asking questions, be making sure that there's transparency. So I think that those are important considerations. So, Mr. Knight.
Real quickly, I think a lot of us do town hall meetings and things in our district, and consistently one of the top priorities in my town hall meetings has been AB 32 and how it's going to affect the district, the state, and what's going on. Uncertainty is always kind of the worst thing that can happen to business. If they don't know what's coming in the future, then typically they can't prepare. Has the public been informed of these types of meetings, and what are we doing to get the public? I understand that the stakeholders are involved, but what are we doing to tell the public what's happening on these meetings, where we are on the provisions of moving forward? Maybe talking about what's going to happen come August, and then what's going to happen in October. That's first thing.
In our normal rulemaking process, we routinely meet with stakeholders on a pretty frequent basis. In terms of the public workshops, we have not had those as frequently as we've had in the past. We are going to notice a workshop for the alternatives analysis in 2 weeks, and at that point we would be explaining a little bit about where things stand as well. The public will also get a good sense of where we stand when we release the additional amendments to the regulations that we're proposing to do, hopefully later this week. So, and then the August hearing, of course, is open to the public as well.
Okay, so these workshops that I would expect are going to either start, or if they haven't started, they're going to be pretty frequent at some point, or is there going to be something on the website that can tell people where they can go and they can find out about this? And
Oh, of course. All our information and all our meetings are posted on the are posted on the internet, and our meetings, our public meetings, are typically either webcast or there's teleconferencing capabilities.
Okay, and with the meetings of the stakeholders, have you got any idea or have you had any information given to you about possible leakage from what AB 32 will mean to jobs in the state or to retaining business in the state? Have we got anything, any feedback back from that?
Oh, all the time. I mean, that's an important part of the regulation itself, and we've gone through all of the industries that have been affected by, that will be affected by AB 32, and have looked at their leakage potential. So the benchmarking and the allowances are set to try to take into account those industries that have higher leakage over time. I mean, in the first compliance period, we're pretty much recognizing that there's a large potential for leakage, and as you move forward into subsequent compliance periods, the leakage risk becomes a little bit less. So we're trying to recognize that and account for that in the rulemaking itself.
I would expect that most of it would leak out quick, and then it would start to trickle because you've lost so many. But
well, that's why we're doing free allowances in the first compliance period too. So.
Thank you. Mr. Dickinson?
Well, actually, that last question and answer really got to what I was going to ask about, which was, it's been my understanding in the first round allowances are largely going to be allocated without charge. And so to the testimony of concern about cost, which is certainly a reasonable concern to have, can you elaborate a little bit on what kind of expectations, at least under the current design, there might be for companies in the attaining of allowances and the cost associated with that?
We haven't. I don't have information on the precise cost of the allowance yet, because that's going to be dictated somewhat by the market. So we haven't. We're sort of in that. We've just now finished this benchmarking consideration where businesses are going to know what they're responsible for. So I think we have a little bit more work to do on that to look at what those ultimate costs will be.
But at least in the first instance, the allowances are largely going to be allocated without charge, correct?
Yes, to certain industries, right? That's correct.
So the question becomes for those that may not be eligible for free allowances, at least initially.
Right.
Mr. Chair, our
Yes.
compliance officer would like to reply to something that was said by CARB just a few minutes ago regarding leakage.
Yeah, just on the leakage issue, I just wanted to note that the League has worked with us to commission a study.
The League of Food Processors?
Yes, I'm sorry. To commission
There's several leagues around.
Yes, I'm sure. To commission a study on food processing was classified as medium risk for leakage, and we believe we should be in the high risk because of competitiveness issues from out-of-state and foreign firms. And that study won't be presented probably at the request of the CARB, I believe, until after 2012.
Okay.
Or in
Thank you.
2012. Thank you.
Well, I'm not going to support your bill today. However, I think you have raised some significant questions that we need to be attentive to. And as a member of the committee, I would strongly encourage you to participate in our oversight hearing. And we will be more attentive and alert to the Air Board's efforts, I think, as a result of you bringing it to us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yeah.
How do we define low, medium, and high risk? Has there ever been a definition of that? If you lose 10% of your
You'd direct this
workforce?
to the Air Board representatives, or?
Anybody who can answer.
Yeah.
Well, it's a CARB calculation based on emissions intensity, and I forget the second factor. Do you know? No, I don't remember. But it focuses on emissions leakage, not business leakage. But it's actually in the proposed regulation what the formula is.
I can kind of answer that a little.
Sure.
Come forward.
The leakage risk is based on it's energy intensity in the production of the product. For us, for most, it's based upon a unit. So it's the product produced, and they count the number of cans, the number of boxes that are produced. For us, though, it's too difficult. We have too many varieties, so it's an energy-based factor. And where it looks at is that the high, medium, and low risk is aimed at determining how easy it's going to be for the company who's going to have to absorb these extra costs associated with purchasing these allowances and pass that on either to their customers or down to their suppliers. So when you've got a company that is trapped, that has no place to go, they're in a competitive environment where they cannot raise their prices, otherwise they're going to lose it, or they're going to, or their customers are going to go someplace else and buy it outside the state where they're not subject to this. Then that's where the leakage occurs. So the emissions goes over there. The problem is that for many of us, what this comes down to in terms of AB 32 is that they want to reduce emissions, and the only way to reduce emissions is to reduce production. That is it. I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but that is the very basis of it. And so buying the allowances gives you an opportunity to try and maintain your production levels by increasingly buying more and more of these allowances. So if you want to expand, you're going to have to buy more. But there's declining amounts of allowances over the years. So basically what we're looking at here is the inability or the ability of a company to pass these costs on. So that means that costs will go up, either in the products that you're purchasing right now, either in the energy costs that we're looking at, or in the suppliers. They're going to have to take less for their products in order for the manufacturers to continue to do what they're doing.
Thank you. Okay. Any further comments, questions? If not, thank you very much. Oh, it has been moved and seconded? Okay. I'm sorry, I was waiting for a motion. Please call the roll.
Chesbro.
Not
Can
voting.
I close?
No, I'm sorry. Yes,
Is
you
that
may
okay?
close.
Okay, thank you.
It's late.
That's okay. It's my first bill. Don't deprive me of that
Well, you're
option.
doing no, and you're doing great.
Okay, well, thank you for letting me present this bill. I really appreciate it. There was a lot of issues that were raised from businesses, and, being a business owner in the private sector, we do need some type of lead time. As a food manufacturer, what happens if they have to replace all of their equipment in order to reduce the emissions and, God forbid, purchase it from another state or across the ocean and have it shipped over? Businesses need some type of lead time in order to put things in place, not to mention training, installing and training new employees on this new equipment. And for the other side of that, we as a legislature should be informed on what CARB's doing. I spoke to the chair on the floor the other day, and he said he was here when AB 32 was passed. We should know what's going on in the unanswered questions. We all represent business and jobs in our district, and we need to know how those jobs and businesses are being affected because of this regulatory compliance. And businesses just need a lead time to be able to participate. So the bill asks for the CARB, when they meet on this self-imposed deadline for July 31st, to just report to us and tell us where they're at and what's going on. And so I would ask for your aye vote.
Okay, thank you. Now we will call the roll.
Chesbro.
Not voting.
Chesbro, not voting. Knight. Knight, aye. Brownlee. Brownlee, not voting. Dickinson. Dickinson, not voting. Grove.
Aye.
Grove, aye. Halderman. Halderman, aye. Hill. Hill, no. Monning. Monning, not voting. Skinner. Skinner, no.
Okay. That's defeated 3 ayes and 2 noes.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Okay, we are. Oh, and we'll. What's that?
If you want to grant reconsideration without objection.
Without objection, I'll grant reconsideration. Sure. That gives you the opportunity to bring it back next year in this form or a different form or whatever you'd like. So, yes.
Those are on call.
We want to start with.
How do you want to do it?
Let's see. Isn't item 2 on call as well? What's up with item 2?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Huh?
It's what?
Item 2.
Yeah, it's on call.
Oh, it is on call.
Right?
Yeah. Item 2 is on call, and I wanted to let the members who weren't present know that I stayed off. And it's because there are 2 assembly bills over in the assembly on the same subject, and I encouraged the author unsuccessfully to put an urgency on it so that we could have negotiations between the 2 houses on the bills. And I think that the best way to have a fair negotiation between the two houses is, in fact, to waive the deadline. The bill will require a two-thirds vote in any case, so it doesn't put an added burden. So I would encourage anyone to join me in not voting on that one, or voting no if you choose. So please call the roll on item 2.
Item 2. That's SB 35 by Senator Padilla, due pass to utilities. Chair not voting. Absent members, Ms. Brownlee. Aye. Ms. Brownlee is an aye. Mr. Hill?
Mr. Chair, if I could just make a comment. I'll be voting aye, but I'd like to certainly encourage the author and to take and look at the issues related to, as a courtesy vote, to look at those amendments and see if there's a possibility to take those into consideration as it moves.
Okay. Mr. Hill is an aye, and Ms. Skinner. Ms. Skinner is not voting. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So it's short one vote for passage. So we'll grant reconsideration, and there is time, and this is not an issue that in any way is intended to sidetrack the bill. So, okay, let's see. I guess this is in order that we considered them. So we'll go to item 5, which is SB 211. The current vote is 4 ayes, no noes. Please call the roll.
Okay.
I voted in favor.
This is item number 5, SB 211. Mr. Emerson, with the chair voting aye. The absent members, Mr. Knight. Aye. Mr. Knight is an aye. Mr. Dickinson. Mr. Dickinson is an aye. Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill is an aye. And Ms. Skinner. Ms. Skinner is an aye.
And Brownlee is an aye.
Ms. Brownlee is an aye because you had not voting before.
That's
okay.
correct.
Ms. Brownlee is an aye from not voting to aye. Bill's out.
Okay, that bill is out. Item 3, Senator Rubio, SB 108. Current vote is 4-0. The chair voted aye.
SB
item 3, SB 108.
108 by Mr. Rubio. The absent members is Mr. Knight.
Aye.
Mr. Knight is an aye. Mr. Dickinson. Mr. Dickinson's an aye. Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill is an aye. Mr. Monning.
Aye.
Monning is an aye. And Ms. Skinner. Ms. Skinner is an aye. That bill's out.
That bill is out. Item 9 is SB 535 by Mr. De Leon. Senator De Leon. The current vote is 4-2. The chair voted aye. Please call the absent members.
Absent members, Ms. Brownlee. Ms. Brownlee is an aye. And Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill is an aye. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
That bill is out. Next is consent. It's just item 18, SB 860. It's a committee bill, a Senate committee bill. The current vote is 4-0 with the chair voting aye.
SB 860, it was a recommended consent. Mr. Knight, who walked out the door. Ms. Brownlee. Ms. Brownlee is an aye. Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill is an aye. Mr. Monning. Mr. Monning is an aye. Ms. Skinner. Ms. Skinner is an aye.
Okay, item 4, which is SB 152, Senator Pavley. Current vote is 2-4, 2 ayes, 4 noes. The chair voted no, but I'm not pushing anybody to follow me. That was my own vote. It's up to you. It's always up to you, of course, but in this case, I'm not providing any encouragement one way or the other. Please open the roll.
SB 152 is due pass to local government. Absent members, Ms. Brownlee. Aye. Ms. Brownlee is an aye. And Mr. Hill. Aye. Mr. Hill is an aye. And Ms. Skinner. Aye. Ms. Skinner is an aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That bill is out.
That bill is out. Item 7, also Ms. Pavley, Senator Pavley, is SB 454. Current vote is 3-3. Chair voted aye. Please call the roll.
This bill is going to UNC. Absent members, Ms. Brownlee. Aye. Ms. Brownlee is an aye. And Mr. Hill. Aye. Mr. Hill is also an aye. And Ms. Skinner. Aye. Ms. Skinner is an aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That bill's out.
That bill is out. Item 14, SB 679. Again, Senator Pavley is the author. The current vote is 3-2. Chair voted aye.
Item 14, SB 679 is due.
Yes, correct.
Due pass to UNC. Brownlee. Brownlee is an aye. Hill. Aye. Hill, aye. And Ms. Skinner. Aye. Ms. Skinner is an aye. Bill's out.
Okay, that bill is out. And we'll add on any that had passed that members may have missed. Feel free to come up.
Okay, let's go through the items. If any members would like to add, okay. Whatever, let's see. Well, you know what, I can call it out, it's fine. Okay, number 2, let's see. That's, reconsideration granted. Okay, that one's out. I'm going all row by row, so bear with me. 4, everybody voted. 5, everybody voted. 6 was pulled. 7, everybody voted. 8, Ms. Brownlee is 8, SB 533, and Mr. Hill. And Ms. Skinner. Ms. Skinner is an aye, okay. Now, this one's done. 10, item number 10. Item number 10, Ms. Skinner. Ms. Skinner is an aye. Item 11, Ms. Skinner is 567 Desaunier. Ms. Skinner is an aye. Item number 12, Ms. Skinner, 568. Lowenthal? Aye. SB 595 by